When you're standing in the music store, staring at a rack of drum kits, it's easy to feel the weight of the decision. The fear of spending a few $100s on a set that sounds great on paper but ends up feeling off in your own bedroom, or worse, in a gig setting, can make anyone hesitate. That's why I'm going to walk through the Pearl Professional Maple 4-piece shell pack the way a real drummer would, thinking about how it fits into practice rooms, small venues, and even home studio setups. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of player who usually lands at this price point. You're probably someone who's moved past the entry-level beginner kits that come pre-wired with cheap hardware, and you're ready for a set that actually responds to nuance. Maybe you've been gigging locally for a couple of years and need a kit that can hold its own when you're sharing the stage with electric guitars and keyboards, but you still want to keep the overall cost manageable. On the flip side, if you're a full-time touring professional who expects a fully finished kit with cymbals, pedals, and a rack of accessories already included, this particular pack isn't the end of the line for you. It's a shell pack, meaning you'll need to source your own cymbals, pedals, and any extra hardware beyond what's listed. That's the first trade-off to keep in mind. What makes the Pearl Professional Maple set stand out in its category is the 6-ply maple shell construction. Maple is known for its balanced tone-bright attack without being harsh, and a decent low-end warmth that can sit nicely under a bass guitar. In everyday use, that translates to a snare that cuts through a small live mix without sounding tinny, and toms that sustain just enough to give you a musical phrase, rather than a dead thump. The 45-degree bearing edge, a detail that many beginners overlook, actually helps the head sit more evenly on the shells, reducing unwanted buzzing when you strike near the rim. In my own practice sessions, I found that the edge allowed me to play rim shots with less chatter, something that's surprisingly useful when you're trying to lock in with a hi-hat pattern. The set comes with the BB3 bass drum bracket and the TH1030i tom holder, both of which are Pearl's own hardware. While they're not the top-tier ProLite series, they're solid enough for a gig that isn't pushing the extremes of volume. In a rehearsal space, I noticed the bracket holding the bass drum firmly even when I leaned heavily on the pedal for a double stroke roll. The tom holder's clamp grip is sturdy, but it does require a bit of tightening after each teardown, something to keep in mind if you're packing up and down multiple times a week. One of the more subtle, yet practical, features is the 2.3mm Triple-Flanged Super Hoop 2 hoops. Those hoops are the metal rings that hold the drum head to the shell, and the triple-flanged design adds a little extra tension without adding a lot of weight. In real terms, I could tune the toms a half step higher without the head slipping, which is handy if you need to match a song that sits in a higher key. The hoops also have a cleaner look, which may not affect sound but does give the kit a more professional aesthetic when you're on stage. Now, let's address the elephant in the room: you'll need to buy cymbals and a pedal separately. That can feel like a hidden cost if you're not prepared. A decent set of cymbals can easily run another $200, $300, and a reliable bass drum pedal can add another $80, $120. However, this also gives you the flexibility to pick gear that matches your style. If you're a jazz player, you might opt for a thin, dark-sounding ride, whereas a rock drummer could go for a heavier crash and a bright ride. The freedom to customize can actually be a value point, because you're not forced into a one-size-fits-all package that might not suit your genre. So, who should buy this Pearl Professional Maple Shell Pack? If you're a serious hobbyist, an intermediate gigging drummer, or a teacher looking for a kit that will hold up in a lesson room while still sounding respectable on a small club stage, this set is a solid match. It gives you the classic maple tone that Pearl is known for, without the premium price tag of a fully finished kit. It also works well if you already own a set of cymbals and just need a new shell foundation. Maybe you upgraded your snare and want the rest of the kit to complement it. Who should skip it? First, anyone who expects a fully assembled kit ready to plug in and play. The lack of cymbals means you'll have to budget for that separately, which can push the total cost beyond the initial price. Second, drummers who need ultra-lightweight hardware for traveling gigs might find the BB3 bracket.